welcome to At the Water Cooler. It's our first ever At the Water Cooler event. Intention of these is to grill and quiz some of the social media industry's leading minds and thinkers. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Adam Klein. I'm the founder and CEO of Coolr. This is the first one we've done. We are going to record it. We may publish it if we don't swear or say anything inappropriate. I'm going to introduce my first guest in a second, but maybe what we'll do is we'll just cue VT and roll a quick sizzle reel, if that's okay.
Do you think that the Sidemen Sundays would be as popular if they were on TV?
No. TV's dead.
You have this group of 7 young men. They all have such distinct personalities. When they all come together, it's just this amazing magic.
If you told me 10 years ago that we're going to be in this position, I would have laughed. 10 years ago, I was just this kid in my bedroom with a dream thinking, it'd be cool to just make a few videos online and see where it gets me.
Welcome to the Sidemen channel.
The Sidemen are a group of YouTubers that are just smashing it right now.
They get 300 million plus views every single month. They get over 1 billion impressions every month across their content, 244 million followers, and that is huge.
It goes to show how powerful a group can be.
Okay, so as you've seen, the Sidemen are probably the most iconic of the YouTube collectives and creators. We're super fortunate to have an old friend of mine, Jordan Schwarzenberger, with us today. We do go way back. I knew him when he was just a mere teenager, and we worked together once upon a time. And Jordan is the manager of the Sidemen and is across a lot of their business ventures. We're going to talk a little bit today about the Sidemen, what that looks like, how they think about the world, the role of creators and commerce coming together. But also we're going to grill Jordan a little bit about his early career. I think he's had one of the most interesting, maybe slightly non-conventional and pretty exceptional career stories today. So I'm going to read some very quick career history, and then we're going to dig right into it. Jordan started his career aged just 17. He chose to drop out of school and work for...
I didn't
uni, sorry, not school.
That's
okay.
illegal, yeah.
All right, fair enough. My story's better, I think. No, don't let the truth get in the way. So he dropped out of uni and chose to go and work at an up-and-coming, emerging publication called Vice, which went on to obviously become one of the big global phenomenons of a generation. As Vice got a little bit older, and Jordan did as well, although it's still a squeezed period of time, he jumped ship, went from Vice to the Lad Bible, and was at the heart of that crazy, explosive growth period when Lad went from a small publication to arguably the biggest social platform in the world. He then jumped again. You like to move around, itchy feet maybe. And he joined YMU, which is one of the leading talent agencies in the UK, if not the world, where he became their first CCO. During his time there, he worked with the likes of Ant and Dec, Take That, and some of the more social first creators like Amelia de Moldenberg and Munya. So really interesting. That would be enough for a lot of people, but not for Jordan, who left again and became the founder of Arcade Media, who manage and work very closely with the Sidemen on a lot of their commercial ventures. And he's just 26 years old. So he is
27 as of last week.
Okay, fine. Happy birthday last week.
Cool,
so he has packed in a huge amount. It's a real privilege to have you here, Jordan. Always love having a conversation with you. I want to start back at the beginning. Like, most people are stressing out about their degrees. You saw the world a little bit differently. Like, what happened? What was it that made you choose to leave the classical route, classical education, and go into Vice? Like, what was going on over there?
Well, I think I had this instinct when I was about, literally 16, 17, that uni was just going to be a waste of my time. I could just feel, you could just feel something in your bones. And I think when I was at school, I'd always sort of done creative projects. Like I'd started a film magazine, got invited to screenings. I started a clothing company, like various different things where, you know, being at the time sort of 17 in the sort of first period of Facebook and social media, there was such a great moment, I think, to learn all the skills now, which really are being used every day. Like how do you actually distribute and activate online? How do you create a concept and share it? Even though it was with, 500 friends on Facebook, it was still about basically social activation. So I'd done a lot of that during my time at school and just saw that there was this huge opportunity to basically do it yourself, right? And uni was just going to be this roadblock in that for me. I just could sense it. So then, went through all of the kind of classical application stuff. I had no idea really what anything is past school. I didn't know what Vice was. I didn't know what an agency was. But I just knew that I wanted to get into something. So got accepted into King's College, doing like the least degree you could ever do, which was digital culture, which is, I guess, a sign that I shouldn't have done it. And it was completely hideous, like the worst thing in the world. They taught like Dungeons and Dragons and RPGs and horrible things. I was just like, this is a total like mess. And I always thought, actually, if there was a card machine outside of the lecture hall, how many people would pay like £40 a session or whatever it was to go? I don't think many, and I definitely didn't want to. So I basically found a bunch of emails from a friend of mine who did work experience at Vice in our year 10, it sounds really young, like a year 10 work experience, and asked him to send them to me. And then I emailed everyone and just said, look, can I come and speak to you? Because Vice was the one company at the time, obviously RIP now, they're pretty much in the bin, but at the time it was a case of they were the one company in the world that seemed cool, and I could sort of see like, all right, they do creative things. And there was a role on their site of a creative, and I had no idea that was to do with brands, but it was the first step to me opening up to actually there's a world out there that you can just get stuck into. So I was at uni for 12 weeks, big record, there we go. And then I spoke to the creative director and the associate creative director there, and they said, look, if your parents aren't going to hate us, like we'd love to have you full time. And it was just the most quick decision in my life. Like I went home, it was at the Christmas parties, everyone was slightly drunk, got home like 4 a.m, whatever, woke up the next day as early as I could, and just dropped out. I was like, I'm done with this. Didn't come back after Christmas, and then started there in January 2016.
And so talk to me about the early days of Vice. It was a phenomenon at the time. It was huge. It was like often described as the MTV of a generation.
It definitely wasn't.
But it wasn't, but that was the pitch deck. They did fine on the pitch.
Yeah.
But, it must have been quite chaotic. It was explosive growth. You were like 17 years old 17, or something, 18, young. How did you fit into that world?
Vice was, for me, the gateway into just seeing the industry. And I learned more in 6 weeks of summer, 6-week placement at Vice than I did in my entire 12 weeks at uni, or even in my last however many years at school. It was the best thing ever. I was a creative intern, I think, at the time. And my role was basically to support the creative team in managing brand briefs, and working on activation. So again, when you're at school, you have no idea that there's even a commercial creative world, that a creative director isn't just someone who goes and maybe makes documentaries. You're actually developing briefs and responses for brands, obviously what you guys do all day, every day, right? So that was my kind of whirlwind of an experience to learn how to do that, how to come up with decks, how to write decks, how to position pitches. And Ben Oliver, who was, I don't know if you know Ben, he was the associate creative director there, and Adam Bracegirdle, who I think went to Stella McCartney and sort of rose up there. But they were amazing, and they just taught me everything about how to basically turn an idea into a pitch and a proposal for a brand, and how to navigate a brief and actually respond. And so, they gave me tons of opportunity, tons of insight, and just let me get on with it, which was amazing. At obviously 18, it was great.
Do you think it was you that was hungry for the briefs? Because a lot of people are always interested about how to break into creative industries, digital marketing, like publishing. Do you think they had a culture of backing young rising talent, or do you just think you were the kind of person who were hungry for it and you were elbowing your way in to be part of that conversation?
I mean, look, I think I asked the question, which I think a lot of people don't do. And even now, right, like we have people who work for us who just ask the question. I mean, Jazz literally here now, sorry,
on the spot.
But Jazz asked, when she came to work with us at Arcade, she asked the question, she found our email, she reached out, and that led to us obviously now working with each other. And she's like one of the most senior people in the company. And that was the same thing for us at Vice. I emailed them and be like, hey, I'm Jordan, I'm 18. I'm like, would love to just come and meet you guys. These are some of the projects I do. This is the stuff I'm interested in. And often if you just ask the question and you ask enough times, I emailed 20 people, which I now know, obviously sitting in an office like that, they all must have got the email at the same time. It's mortifying, like thinking what that must have been. Like, who's this kid, like emailing everybody? But 2 people got back, right? And that's all you need.
What was probably your biggest learning during your time at Vice?
So Vice was the best example, I think, of making a company look a certain way, but under the skin, not having any of those fundamentals. So Vice was the whole thing of, we reach every millennial in the world and we're super relevant and, youth-centric brand. And Lab Bible had a bit of it, I mean, a lot of this, right, as we know. But under the surface, like, how many people are you actually reaching? Like, not many. And you look at the media plan and there aren't that many numbers, there aren't many zeros there next to reach. It's like, well, how are you selling this for tens of thousands of pounds? So I think Shane Smith's thing, who was the CEO of Vice at the time and the founder, was perception is reality, which I think is quite a good lesson for for brand building, right? That you have to build this perception. And actually, that was probably the biggest lesson, that the shiny offices and, you know, the kind of the gloss of Vice and the feeling and the vibe of Vice was half the sell, actually, even if the fundamentals weren't there. And obviously TV linear, right, has this totally where actually some of the big channels command ridiculous fees and have extortionate rates, but it's the vibe and the energy of previously a Channel 4 maybe or an ITV. So you have to have that level of brand persona and perception to, I think, drive like real levels of result, I think.
Vice was probably a bit more established at that point, and they'd reached that scale. Lad was like in at the trenches, right? There were probably 120 people, if that, and now they're like 500-600. So talk to me about the role and the differences between the two and what you found there, like culturally different, all that kind of stuff.
Totally. So I went to Lad as a junior creative strategist, I think my role was at the time. And it was basically going in to set up the agency structure. So Ian had done it at Vice, he'd done it previously before. How do we go and build it at Lad Bible with a publisher that accesses this incredible audience? How can you build a commercial arm that actually makes money for the brand, but also connects brand partners in with that audience in an authentic way? So my job was to, alongside Will Hain and a couple of others, to basically respond to briefs and to create this flow of agency work, right? Where we're delivering on a brand brief and then translating that to a Lad Bible audience. Sounds really weird now, but translating that to a bunch of 18 to 30-year-old boys, really, at the time. So we worked on tons of stuff for like Pepperami and the Euros and all sorts. And my role, was to kind of lead on that creatively alongside the team. And it was amazing. And obviously, you came in about 6 months after that?
Maybe,
something like that, to sort of look after operations for the group. And we had the Manchester office and the London office, and it was great. It was amazing to be at a company like that, which had all of the audience, but didn't have the business.
You didn't stand still. You did some great stuff at Lad. You were part of that explosive growth period, but then you jumped to YMU. Maybe you can just give a lay of the land of YMU and where that story came from, because I think it's kept you at the cutting edge of where the social and digital media and publishing industry is. So Vice was the media player, Lad was social first, and then YMU was maybe a foray into the early world of like where talent is becoming more creator and influencer led. So what led to that kind of change? And also before that, were there any big takeouts from Lad Bible that you took with you into that role?
Massive. Well, I think in between Lad and YMU, I think we worked together a little bit as well with my agency Roundabout. So I started this like Gen Z agency because I was like, I'm 19, like work with a few brands, let me go and start my own thing. So I did, with a couple of apprentices actually who worked at Lad with me, if you remember.
I do remember.
But then we took them over and then we started this agency because we're like, why not? Had no idea how to do it or anything really, but we started it and it was great. And we had a number of clients. Dugout was one, who you obviously worked at for a period of time. We had like MTV. We worked with James Grant, so one of the clients. So James Grant, who I had no idea of, really was this sort of hidden beast, I think, really, because actually they had, all of the biggest names in TV. So everyone from an Anton Deck to Holly Willoughby. And they had this huge scaled sort of basically individual series of publishers, really. If you look at talent as media brands, they had this incredible slate, and you added up the numbers, and it was 200 and something, million followers across all the talent in the group. And you go, hold on, but you're thinking of them as talent, you're not thinking of them as publishers. So we sort of consulted with them. I worked with, I think it was Frank Lampard, Rylan, and then Reggie Yates were the first three we got briefed on. We sat and there was this weird thing of like going into the meeting room and you're pitching these like scrappy like 18-year-olds to, I don't know, Frank Lampard, he's like stoic.
It's like something from Entourage.
And it was really weird, but they loved it. And the whole idea was, here's a strategy and a vision for you and your brand. You're here, how do you get to here? And what's the sort of execution to get you there in terms of future-proofing? How do you leverage social? How do you think like a creator? How do you adapt to the world we're in today? So
they've never had that conversation before, right?
I mean, they had a digital team, but it was a very sort of early stage, traditional digital team, right? So it was great. And then that led to myself and Mary, who's now the CEO there. We got on really well, and it was near Christmas, and she was like, look, we'd love you as much time as you can give. Please give it. And if you want to come in full time, we'll do it. And I was like, you know what? This is like a massive jump for me and an opportunity, both like role, responsibility and everything, to go in and become their chief creative officer. And I was like 20 or something, whereas I was like, again, why not? I might as well go for it. And so I spoke to the guys who were doing Roundabout with me, and then we packed it in, and I started there beginning of 2018 as a CCO. And the whole principle was take the fundamentals of a Lad Bible and of a publisher and apply that to talent, and how big can that go? So it was great fun. And I think some of the things that I love doing there, like future-proofing the business through bringing in new talent. People like, the first thing I did was get Amelia, because I met Amelia de Monenberg, Chicken Shop Day.
Yeah.
We met each other at Lad because we were trying, it's the craziest story, thing now, but we were trying to acquire Chicken Shop Date at Lad. And we were going to give her like
very
50.
solid.
Oh, so solid. We had like a budget of 100K to basically get, I think, 5 or 6 formats. And I think Solly was like, let's get 15 out of 100K, which is nuts. But one of them we spoke to was Amelia in Chicken Shop Date, because it blew up on our page. I think the Big Nasty episode or something. Yeah. So the idea was, right, Amelia, let's buy Chicken Shop Date. But imagine if she took that deal, that would have been horrific. But yeah, that was how I met her. And then when I went to YMU, the first thing I did, James Grant at the time, was call up Amelia and be like, look, like, you've got this incredible brand, you're doing so well, but you're still so early, and actually with a proper team around you, how much bigger could this go? So she signed there in 2018, I think, at the beginning, which was the first thing I did. And then, yeah, we got to work with each other for a number of years, which was great. And we did like a tour and big brand deals together and all sorts of stuff. And obviously I think she's left now, but she had an amazing, it was all great after I left, which maybe was my fault, I don't know. But she just had the best 2 years of her life.
But having that infrastructure around a creator was quite revolutionary, right?
For sure.
Especially in the UK.
100%.
No one had done it before, right?
Totally, but also not many creators like her had built formats and sort of shows right online. So how do you take traditional management that manages people working with big TV and streamers, etc., and how do you apply that to somebody who's YouTube first? So she was like the perfect person for that, because she wanted to do TV.
I want to go back to Ant and Dec for a
go
minute, because I don't feel like you can just
so nice.
brush over Ant and Dec like national treasures.
Yeah.
They're two individuals who have been brought up in traditional media.
Yeah. Literally since they were like
since
babies,
they were babies, Biker Grove, iconic.
Yeah.
But always through TV format, always through very traditional broadcasting management. Like, talk me through the experience of like, you're the new kid on the block working with such established talent.
Yeah.
Was there resistance? Were they open to it? Was there politics with existing agents or managers? Like, how does something like that, because they're all over social. I remember when you launched them, and they were all in on it. They weren't passive. They treated it properly. So how do you take a big talent like that on that kind of journey?
Totally. Well, I think it starts with strategy and presenting to them a vision as to, okay, you're here, but here's all of the opportunity that you could have. And for them, especially, seeing the decline of ITV and of traditional TV. I mean, I don't know if they're out of their ITV deal now, but they've been eyeing up, and I'm sure they will do a big like Netflix or Amazon, or they have to move into that space because linear is on the decline, but they have such a staple in the UK, right? They're the biggest talent here really on traditional. So the conversation with them, and they're unique because they have a team of 3 people who sit around them, one of which is Dec's wife, Ali. So it's kind of a weird thing, but actually they're so much more open because they don't have that fear of anything really, other than we're kind of a little Ant and Dec family of management, and we're helping them to constantly stay relevant. So they were always amazing and so up for challenging and pushing things forward. And the biggest one was, how do we really take Ant and Dec and blow them up on social and turn them into a digital first brand? And actually, the best thing we did was hire a guy called Jack, who actually came to work with us, Jack Davidge, and then he went off to work for Mr. Beast. Now he's back.
Okay.
You can ask him about that.
We should interview him next.
That's the whole. He's got a lot of stories, I'm sure. But Jack came in, and I found him on LinkedIn. I think he lived in like Cornwall, and I was like, bro, like, do you want to come speak to Ant and Dec and see if you become their content manager, because you look like a good fit? And I think he told me he traveled for like 15 hours. He didn't tell me. He just was like, I'll be there tomorrow. Traveled like 15, 16 hours, got like a coach, literally planes, trains and automobiles to get to Marylebone to see, or Fitzrovia to see Ant and Dec. And they loved him, and he came on. Luckily. And he was there. That would have been a waste of a trip. And he was their content manager for a year and smashed it out of the park with them. And I think it was, them being invested in him and invested in the process, but also being willing to take risk. And, I remember, I think Dec or something said, like, actually they ended up getting spotted in the street by kids who only knew them from their social content and didn't know them from TV. And he was like, okay, this is how we know we've done something here. So,
right, interesting. And so, Jordan doesn't stand still. Like, what was the big outtake from YMU?
I think for me, the biggest thing with YMU is just that talent is everything, and people buy people more than anything else. But publishers will innately be temporal, right? Whereas talent and people will last. And actually, that was definitely the learning from YMU, that actually, if you have talent and you have connection, like look what Amelia's now done. Look what Munya's done. Look what, any of these people have done. They've developed a deep connection with an audience, and that translates into something way bigger than a publisher can. So I think that was definitely the takeaway. And obviously now it's like all talent.
And so obviously, the Sidemen, it's such a big draw. It's such a big opportunity. Opportunity seems to have found you, or you found it. We'll talk about that maybe at some point as well. But how did you manage to get into the world of Sidemen? I mean, like, to get access to them is really difficult. Someone was telling a story that one of the, I can't remember which of the Sidemen it was, but one of them was walking around Soho and people are literally following them down the road, filming their every move. It's like, how do you even get a conversation with people like that? How do you get a meeting?
My first interaction with them was in 2016. So they had the first charity match they did, I think, in Southampton Stadium. And the biggest moment for me where like this is why talent is so important, is because it was when I was at Lab Bible actually. They sold out 13,000 seats in I think a minute or something, right? And they were only allowed that one stand because otherwise the police would basically have to get like horses and a proper police presence there and it'd become a thing. So they were only given one stand, sold out in a minute. And I just remember when I was covering it, meeting the guys, it was so nice, going out and just being like, oh, this is really chilled. And then at the end of the game, all these kids like swarm the pitch and start trying to literally grapple every person they could find. They wanted to touch like the sleeve of Cal Freezy and all this stuff. Weird stuff. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. And everyone then got like pushed into the tunnel and these big like security guards were like blocking it like someone out of The Walking Dead or something. It was crazy. And it just was a massive sign to me that this was where it's at. Like specifically YouTube and social creators have a different degree of connection.
Right.
Antoinette will get stopped in the street. We're not going to get mobbed like that, right? It's not going to be like chasing them down. And I think it's because there's this parasocial relationship where people feel like they really know them and they've been so authentic since the beginning that they feel like they're friends. And that can be dangerous. Like Vic once said, I remember, he might have been on Psychos actually, that like he was at an event or something and people were following him into the toilet, like into the cubicle and being like, Vic, can I get a picture while he's trying to piss? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, that's a bit much.
It's a bit, and he was like,
careful
get
what you
out.
wish for in life,
literally,
isn't it?
but it's like that's the degree of connection and sort of closeness that people feel with them. So how it came about was the three co-founders of Arcade, myself, Aaron and Sam. Aaron had been in the accountancy side of YMU, so he looked after a bunch of TikTokers. He then met Sam, who's our third co-founder, and Sam has been the accountant for the Sidemen and most of UK YouTube for the last 10 years. So he was really early on the space. So his best friend at school was Marcus Butler, who was a big YouTuber. Marcus started making money. Sam was an accountant. He says, oh, can you become my accountant, Sam? Cool. He says yes. And then from there, Marcus introduces him to Alfie Days and Zoella and all these people, and he becomes the guy. And so from there, you know, he had always seen that the Sidemen had this golden opportunity where they have this immense connection, but so little around their brand. They had, you know, the content business, so really just YouTube, which they were still editing and doing themselves. It was crazy, right? And they're already at this point 8-9 million followers, subscribers, so big. And getting chased down the street wherever they go. But they didn't have an infrastructure. And Sam had always seen that there was so much hype and noise around these guys. But as we know, right, if we grow up in this generation, you know they are the biggest. There's nothing bigger. But that they had this untapped potential. And also in the UK, the kind of influencer management side of things is quite archaic. There's a lot of non-exclusive representation, you know, people trying to fight against each other to scrap for deals. There's a lot of that going on. What that means is everyone chases transactional brand income, but they don't look at long-term strategy. So the gap is actually building something for the long term when everyone else is chasing basically brand deals. And even today, influencer management is very much about brand deals. In America, you don't have that. You have a regulation that stops you from being a manager and an agent. So people are often represented and they have management. So anyway, here it's not like that. So we came in and said to the guys, hey, like, you know, this is the potential. This is what you could do. That's the kind of deck or presentation that I've been doing at YMU for so long for, in Anton Deck and so on. Off the back of that, there were 15 areas for the guys to then go and develop. And everything from restaurants, which we knew they kind of wanted to do, and alcohol brands to membership clubs and all this stuff. And then we put it in a voting tally afterwards, and they voted 1 to 10 each of them on it, which is how they managed their flow, and it pumped out a list of like 12 things or whatever it was, and then a list of the ones that hit majority. This is how they always work. And so we're going through that list the other day. It's like we've done all of the ones pretty much that we signed off on at the time, and they were just like, yeah, let's go for it. So handed in my notice at YMU, which was like a month or something stupid because they didn't change my contract, and started in April 2021.
Side Plus feels like a natural extension, right?
Yeah.
It's a subscription model for content. We're already making this stuff, you get access to more, and we're good at creating. I get it. That's like, it's not a jump, it's a step. Going into food, fried chicken, health and safety, that's a massive leap. Like, what's the fear factor for you as a team at Arcade on taking on a project like that, where you're not, like, I'm assuming, like restaurateurs,
I have no idea.
and
I
them
don't
who have
yeah.
never done it either,
Totally.
going into completely new categories. Like,
for sure,
how does that play out in the real world?
For sure. So I think for us, it's always been a case of know that we have no idea what we're doing in any of the operational.
Just admit it and own it.
Just know, yeah. Like the worst thing to do, I think I always say this: if we'd have tried to execute on any one of the things, we would have fallen flat on our face. Richard, who's here actually, he's an amazing partner in Sidemen Games, so in our Hot House Games business with him. And again, Richard's the king of games. He knows toys inside and out. We have no idea about toys. We don't know what we're doing in that space. I don't want to know. Give it to Richard. That's our mindset for everything that we do. And so that applies to restaurants, that applies to alcohol. It's finding partners who are the best. And this is what I talk to creators about all the time. don't ever try and operate yourself. It's one thing that, I think a lot of people get tripped up at, especially even on clothing and merch. I know a few creators who are like, it's a nightmare. I have to manage HR and I have to manage like stock and warehouses and rent. It's like, don't bother. There are people out there who are experts in what they do, who will absolutely want to work with you, and they can take all of the operational risk, all of the cash risk as well. You do the bit that you're great at, which would be creative and connecting with your audience. Do that bit and leave the rest to people who know how to manage health and safety, because I personally don't care.
But it's a lot, because that's the stuff that will trip you up. And I've seen creators launch, it feels like the clothing range is always the easy one, and it's really difficult. And I think everyone thinks, well, I'll just sell product, and then people send the product back and they're like, what do I do with that? I have to give you a refund. I didn't realize that's
and
part of the game.
And,
and I've got to have a warehouse and distribution. How does the decision making come about when you've got to be respectful of your community that everybody's worked so hard to build over the years, the trust that you have, that the product has to be good enough, and that it fits the brand, right? Because there's a million products you could do, but are they right for putting a side type of
stamp on it, right?
Stamp on it. How does that play out?
Totally. Well, I think it's a few things. I mean, the initial ones genuinely were just from the guys having that wish list of, I really want to go into a club and have a magnum of my own vodka or whatever it might be. Right. So that was not based, I think we talked about earlier around data and does that play a role. So I think for us, it's about constantly trying to find the best product and the best way of executing, try and get it to as many people as possible and do it in a really authentic way, which is fun and in the Sidemen theme, which is friendship really, right? And togetherness and having a fun time, like not taking things too seriously. And as long as that DNA, I think, floats between all the different brands and concepts and it feels like them, but most importantly, it doesn't pretend to not be a brand that is trying to provide value and it provides value first, then actually I think people respond quite well to it.
And what's the sort of longer term ambition for those businesses? Like, what does that look like? Or is it too early to say? Because,
no, for sure.
How big do they want to scale them? Do they have can you see them being acquired? Could the vodka brand be acquired by Diageo and then you lose control? How does that stuff play out a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think the exit has to be, of course, financially exiting the businesses, but also trying to build something that has a legacy or a cultural weight that can be in 10 years or so bigger than the Sidemen. I think for us, everything that we do has to try and aim to be bigger than them, or else there's no point. And that's why even things like the breakfast brand Best, like their logo's on the back, it's not on the front. You wouldn't necessarily know that it is them, but it has their energy and their vibe in it. And actually, if you do know, you know. So then it's appealing to random mums just walking in Tesco as well as to Sidemen fans. I think that has to be the model.
I'll talk about creators and how you see that philosophically in a second. I'm interested in the Sidemen. I say this like, as someone who's going a bit grey on the side, they're all getting older, right? They're all growing up. Some of them are in long-term relationships, buying homes, having kids, all that kind of stuff. Does that change the dynamic? How do you future-proof them and their content and their legacy when they used to be quite, they started off as like mates gaming, they've gone into this like publishing phenomenon. What does it look like 20 years from now? I know it's a long way away and maybe AI's killed all of us at that point. I don't know. But do you think about that things? Do they think about that?
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely at a point now where they're having to think about, well, okay, Ethan's got a kid. He can't be traveling around the world to the same degree. A lot of them are settling down now. They're getting married. They're starting to think about family. So hold on, what does that mean for a schedule? They're moving out. Like they're having different life things go on that obviously have an impact. So I think the answer is actually what happened with Inside, which was Jazz's baby, which he sort of show ran really. And Inside is a great case study of what's possible now. So if you saw it, it was the reality show that the guys did. I think it's up 60 million views or something. It beat Love Island in the UK and did it on like 12th the budget. Well done, Jess. Smash it. But it was an amazing example of what's possible when the guys step up and out and almost act as a platform and hosts in something. But it's distilled across 7 of them. So each of them maybe did 2 hours across the week. But from it, you got this incredible moment, this great content, but also a platform for other creators to come through, which then led to now some of them, Castillo and Specs, are blowing up and having their own sort of moments. And that's repeatable and returnable forever, really, because there's always going to be a new wave of talent. So I think it's more formats and shows and IP. And we're talking about, how can that live as a kind of entity potentially for us to be developing more formats and actually working with traditional production companies and maybe some broadcasters and commissioners, etc., to scale shows up and beyond the Sidemen, because that has long-term legacy and effect in a way that if it's just them traveling around the world every week, there's only so much they can do that without their schedules just becoming a mess. They're a mess as it is, so never mind adding kids into the mix.
What's next for the Sidemen? But also what's next for you and Arcade? What does that look like?
So I think for the Sidemen and us, I think it's a case of more content IP. So things like Inside, that's the first one. It went really well. So how can we do more of those? I think it's about building into the brands and developing them more traditionally. Like, as I said, raising capital, potentially scaling them out. We've got great teams, but it requires a lot of effort and time and money to be able to scale these things properly. So more of that. I think more brand partnerships as well now. I feel like we've had this period of time where maybe the markets felt like, the boys are inaccessible, where actually now they're quite hungry, they're up for it and they're keen, but it's almost like, where are the brands? And I think it's because brands don't know how to access them or know how to work with them and think they're just too far gone. So I think, doing more brand work is something that we're really interested in, both individually and for the group. And trying to make moments happen. That's always the driving force of everything we do is based in moments. So the idea is the guys have obviously their schedules, they have their ritual of their content, but can you drop big moments in, like the charity match, which is hopefully coming next year, Christmas drillings, our Christmas number 1 that we did in 2022, like those moments which become these incredible sort of, I guess, tentpoles, like Inside was this year. How do we do more of those? So I think more moments, more content IP, digging into the brands, and then hopefully, as I always say, if we're doing our job, they're enjoying their time. That's the thing. If they're enjoying it, then we're good. So hopefully they keep enjoying it, or else we're out of a job. So,
and what next for you guys as a business? For not just Sidemen, but for Arcade? How are you thinking about that?
Well, I think for us, it's like, how do we apply these learnings to others as well, to other brands, really? We don't want to ever manage other talent. Like, we have no interest in it. There's a reason why we have one client, because they're the biggest, but also talent are horrific generally to deal with and not fun, as anyone who works in talent will know. So I think the guys are an exception. They're very easy. We love working with them. So we wouldn't want to manage any other talent. But I think we are talking about brands and how do we help partners kind of take some of the philosophy and the thinking and apply it to themselves. That's really exciting. So that's something that we're definitely looking at more.
Cool. And then maybe a final question, or Lucy will tell me off. AI, I feel like you have to just tick the box and talk about AI for 30 seconds. Sorry. No, how do you see that changing the game? Both, I mean, we'll go big and small. Big, the whole world of social media, what's your thought on it? Because I get asked every single day.
Every single day. I was literally on a podcast this morning and they asked me and I said, I really don't care about it.
I feel bad for not caring.
It's a good question, but I think I said, and it's the same sort of response here. It's that people are imperfect and they're flawed, and so people will not be replaced by AI. And the idea that you can have, for example, an AI influencer or a virtual influencer take over from someone like the Sidemen is just insane to me. And I do also think, cynically, that the bubble of AI has been pumped by finance to try and find a vehicle to make loads of money, which they have done. I don't think it's really as hyped. And if you think how many real people in our real lives are using it, the timeline was that we should all be out of a job by now, and we're not, and everyone doesn't really use it. Maybe ChatGPT is a maybe better version of Google, maybe to help with lists and stuff. So I think it will help people who are doing technical jobs speed up in our space, like editors, maybe transcribing. Cool, easy, but will it replace it or disrupt it in a cataclysmic way? I just don't buy it.
In terms of you're obviously dealing with the Sidemen, they're quite a unique proposition in the market. Do you have any views on the world of influencer and creator and some big trends happening in that space?
Yeah, so I mean, I think my big thing with creators now and the creator economy is that I don't think the creator economy even really exists. And I keep saying this, people are like, what? But I really don't believe in it. And the reason why is because Sidemen and creators like them, I would equate them to, for example, I don't know, Bob Dylan or Prince. Like, they are the legacy within this space, and they were born and grown within the pre-TikTok, pre-COVID era, which I think was a divide in consumption habit and time, and everything changed after that. And now the stickiness of connection is almost non-existent. There are hardly any people who endure more than, I don't know, a couple months. Even the people who were big at the start of TikTok during that time have kind of fallen into irrelevance. Celebrity has kind of died. There isn't really many stars. Music industry is a complete mess because no one can break and actually sustain. And even the people who they think they do, they try, they put loads of money into them, and then by the time they're up, they're down again. So relevance has just gone up and down so much more quickly now. So I don't think there's stickiness, and therefore I struggle to see who can even build anything today. The way I see things more and more is actually the brands completely are in control of everything because they actually have money and everyone else in the space and influencers and so on get this trickle down of little pockets of brand spend, but that's all they really are, is basically a funnel for some brand experimentation money, right? Which seems to be an economy, but I don't know if it really is. So I think the Sidemen are an exception. There are many others, or some others, maybe a handful, who are an exception. But for most, I don't think it's really a career even, or a viable business opportunity. I think from the way it's moving is everyone will just have access to audience. Everyone can be a creator. That's way more exciting to me, and that's, I think, where things are going. But you have a business and you supercharge that business through social and through content rather than your business being social, because it doesn't really pay. And most TikTokers are broke. They don't have money. They're struggling. It's not a good way to be, and not a good, I think, career path for most people. That sounds really depressing, but I do think that's the truth. I think that is the truth.
I'm just trying to keep up, to be honest.
Yeah, sorry, I know we haven't got long, but that's, I think, where things are. So I'm not very bullish on the idea of the creator economy. I just think it will be for everybody, which is the opportunity, right?
Yeah.
When there's a oversupply of creators, actually everyone has access to a phone and to social. And if we all posted a TikTok, probably one of us, I mean, you're a social agency, so that's not fair, but one of us would probably go viral, right?
Yeah.
And I think you've probably found this every day. The opportunity to access audience is bigger than ever. That's great for everyone else, but for creators and YouTubers, etc., and social stars, like, it's quite difficult.
I feel like you just wrote your dissertation there, to
Oh,
be
there you go,
honest.
there you go.
We'll go
Hopefully that
full
made sense,
circle.
but-
I'm going to open up the floor
yeah,
because
let's do it.
I'm sure people have got some questions, and I'm sure some people will not want to ask their question because they're shy. But Lewis always goes first, so yes, there we go.
Hi, Jordan. If Adam Klein wasn't here and you had a 16-year-old Jordan sitting in front of you, what question do you think he would ask you?
If he was asking me now, maybe something like, what will be relevant when you're 27 and will it be Vice? Because I think at the time and social seemed like it was the world. This is how quick things move.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And now, what is it? That's probably what will be relevant.
Hey, Jordan. Hi. You've worked with loads of great brands over the years. If you talk about brands being the power in the future, you may have already worked with them. What would be the one in, say, a couple of years' time that you would love to be a part of for a significant period of time?
I think for me, so on that point of brands being the future, for me, brands become creators is the move. It has to be because they have the money to fund it. I'm speaking at Edinburgh next week and doing the opening debate there on like it's called Back from the Brink, and it's about TV's death and decline. And always when I was running through the points today, every question comes back to funding and money. Because TV does not have the money because it gets brand spend trickled down into advertising dollars, which then fund the content, which is why they can't make any shows and they can't take any risk. So brands have the capital and the money. That's why they're deploying tens of millions of pounds, the big ones, into content and into marketing, etc. So the minute brands realize that they can just become creators is the minute brands become commissioners, is my sense. And actually TV just kind of dies as a middleman, linear anyway, or it becomes an outpost for brands and brands just become channels, or they just are not on there at all.
Do you think audiences want that though?
From
a brand.
I don't think they necessarily want it, but there's no alternative because they're doing it anyway. So my thinking is, yes, there's challenges there around public service broadcasting, the BBC, authenticity. Does everything become a brand message? But there's no money. There's no other money there apart from being the Netflixes of the world and the Disneys, etc., where they're driving direct revenue. So that's the opportunity is brands becoming creators, I think, which is actually a big opportunity. Like, why is LVMH not producing the best luxury dramas and shows about fashion? For me, that's an open goal, but I don't know. I think, so brands I'd like to work with. I think anyone who is nimble enough to, to go at that, because I think there's a massive opportunity there that because of the corporate structures of brands and the hierarchies and the fact that fundamentally most people just don't want to get fired, so they don't rock the boat. If somebody's willing to be brave and actually go for it, there's a huge opportunity. And yeah, I'd love to do so. I don't know who, but I'd love to do something there.
I actually run a university degree course.
Amazing. Sorry.
No, it's all good.
I'm sure yours is great.
So it's digital content creation,
Okay,
and hopefully we've got students who are sort of coming through. And I just wondered, what advice would you give to students who are sort of, there and stuff, they're already invested in uni or whatever?
Totally.
I don't want to see any backtracking now.
Honestly,
no backtracking. The biggest thing is to build audience and leverage for themselves. So create your own accounts, experiment on social. Like, everyone has access to build audience, which can provide them with all the leverage they're ever going to need in their life, but most don't. So I'd say that's the biggest thing. I said this to the kids there. I was like, just start making accounts, actually create audience, because that is the value at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. I think the interesting thing on that point is when we were at Lad Bible, we hired two even younger kids. They were, I think,
14.
16. They were
14.
They were internally called the Whiz Kids, but they built some Instagram pages. One of them had 1 million followers on a football page, and the other one had nearly 1 million on another page. And they worked at the Lad Bible. Their parents were interviewed by Solly, the founder. It was a whole big thing. And I was like, I just don't get what's going on. Is this even real? But those two guys have gone on to build probably in some ways Lad Bible's biggest rival now, Puberty Group. They've got 130 million followers across channels. They are absolute superstars. So, and they're just teenage guys.
But they were there when they were literally 14.
Yeah, they were babies when they joined.
And they were in there, I remember during their exams, I think because I see Kit all the time, I saw it was in last week, and he was saying, they used to go into the toilet cubicles at school to build their Instagram pages instead of being in lessons. And obviously, sounds crazy, but that's paid them off now massively. I think Puberty has 30 million on Instagram or something stupid.
Yeah, the numbers are huge in that. They've got New York Times best-selling books because they've got the audience that can sell the platform.
It's leverage, right?
Yeah, it's leverage. Lewis is going to ask the closing question.
For those young people in the room, what do you think is the biggest thing for them to build upon? You mentioned puberty and they then manage to go on to do that. If you could teach a young person, this is the one area that you should go into and kind of try and learn and master, what area do you think that should be?
I think two things. The first would be learn how to write. And it sounds crazy, but actually the skill I think in social these days is a copywriting skill more than it is a video skill, because actually the video's opened up to everybody, right? If you think everybody has a phone, and TikTok is the most lo-fi, unproduced thing in the world. So learn to write and learn how to tell stories and write well, because that's a skill, and that is something that actually it can definitely be taught, but it's something which you need to learn, I think, and really study to be great at it. Some people have an amazing knack for just telling stories, but most don't. So I would say learn how to write and create scripts. And actually these days, everything seems to start from a script. Newsletters are some of the biggest sort of channels really out there now, and some of them are huge. It's a script on newsletter, and that gets distilled into 5-6 pieces of content in terms of threads on, or threads on Twitter and Instagram, like everything. So actually start with scripting and learn how to write. That's the first thing. Understanding psychology is a part of that too. And then I'd say, just build. I think TikTok has to be the place for experimentation today. And even Instagram now, again, it's kind of having a rebirth in terms of Reels, and the opportunity to blow up on Reels is quite big. But just spend the time. Like, it is actually a game of doing 100 videos, and then by your 100th, maybe you'll be good. But if you don't get to 100, you're going to probably not be good. And I even found this for myself. I just experimented with TikTok and started making some videos. You end up finding, if you just do enough and you learn how to tweak it and experiment, you can start getting some decent numbers. And I think, for anybody out here, the game is open. Everyone has a chance. So take it, because it might change again. It probably will quite soon.
I think my answer to that is similar, but slightly with a top spin. Mine is PowerPoint, underrated skill.
Keynote,
I think,
Adam.
I'm a
Keynote,
PowerPoint guy. But I think if you can sell through PowerPoint, that's how so much business is done.
Totally.
That's how you sell your script. That's how you
Canva
sell
these days, no?
Canva
these days.
I'm old school. I've still got a Hotmail account. Don't judge me.
Really.
I think we're done. Did I see a hand go up? Yeah. Final question. Last one.
What drives you? What is it inside you that you've been driven from such a young age? You've done so much so young. What is it that's inside you that's pushing you forward?
I really just enjoy seeing ideas start and come to life. I'm like, if you know that thing of a starter, middle person, a finisher, whatever, I'm definitely the starter. Like, I kind of get bored of stuff. So I like setting them up, handing them to great people who are amazing, and then moving on. But the fact that you can come up with an idea, and today in our time, you have access to the means to make it real, it's just so fun. I just enjoy, I think I've always had that drive to do more of those things. Maybe it's a dopamine thing, I don't know. But there's something about making moments, which is why I think we've been so good actually at making moments, because a lot of the teams share that feeling of charity match where you're not sleeping for 2 weeks or whatever. It's that feeling of piling into something to make a moment happen, and then you're on to the next. So it's kind of been maybe a thread.
Okay, cool. Should we put our hands together for Jordan? Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely fascinating.